Thank you for volunteering your time with Mapping Prejudice. Without our volunteers, this project would not exist. It is the work of all of us in our community that allows us to confront the history of structural racism and make necessary change to our contemporary system of inequality. This short video will help you get started identifying racially restrictive covenants in housing deeds. Start the process by going to mappingprejudice.umn.edu. Click Take Action. Then click Volunteer with Mapping Prejudice. Scrolling down, you can see that getting started with your first deed is a 3-step process. The first step is to watch this training video, so you're on track. The next step is to create an account on zooniverse.org, or sign in if you already have an account. Navigate to the Zooniverse homepage by typing zooniverse.org into your browser, or click the link in Step 2 on the volunteer page. To register, on the Zooniverse page, select Register in the top right part of the screen and complete the registration form with your information. Once you complete the registration, or if you are already signed in, you'll head back to the Mapping Prejudice website and move on to Step 3. Step 3 is to find Mapping Prejudice on Zooniverse. Our projects are privately listed on Zooniverse. This means you cannot find our project by searching for it. So, click on Step 3, then click on the direct link to the Mapping Prejudice Zooniverse page, here. Now that you're at the Zooniverse project's homepage, make sure you're signed in. When you're signed in, you will see your username in the upper right-hand corner of the window. Be sure to sign in every time you work with a project. Now, let's take a look around. Take some time to get familiar with the information available on this page. The main navigation buttons are at the top right corner of the page under your username. The About button links to detailed information about Mapping Prejudice. The Talk button links to the Help and FAQ pages, along with other general discussion topics. Here you can post questions and read other volunteers' comments. If you start a new discussion, someone from the Mapping Prejudice team will get back to you, usually within 48 hours. These helpful pages can be reached at any time by clicking on the Talk button at the top of the page. The Classify button takes you directly to the data collection part of the project. This is where you'll be doing most of your work, reviewing documents and transcribing information. Every individual project has its own button on the main page. Clicking this button will take you to the Classify portion of the selected project. Click on the city or county that you want to work on. If no buttons are available, Mapping Prejudice is not in need of volunteers at this time. Clicking either the Classify or the County or City button will take you to a new page with an image of a document. The document you'll be working with will be on the left, and you'll see a task box with questions on the right. If this is your first time transcribing, a tutorial box will pop up that gives a brief overview of our project. It covers some background on covenants, details on navigating the Zooniverse workflow, and how to get started transcribing deeds. You can always find more detailed information about the history of covenants at our website. Note that every document is reviewed by at least 5 volunteers before being sent through quality control, so strive for accuracy, but don't worry if you have to skip an unreadable document or if the answer to every question isn't immediately clear. The data produced here goes through a robust review process to correct for errors and mistakes. Take the time to read the whole tutorial. Visit it at any point by clicking on the Tutorial tab in the upper right of the response box. When you've read it through, click Let's Go to get started. The document on the left side of the screen in the document window has been selected for review because certain keywords associated with racial covenants have been flagged in the text. By default, you are presented with the page of the document which we think contains a racial covenant. You can navigate between the pages of the document by clicking on the circles below the document window. You may need to look at other pages to find the information required to answer some of the following questions. If you can't see a part of the document you need, you can use the toolbar at the top right of the document window to zoom in or out, rotate, or drag the important part of the image up and down. We'll now walk through a transcription step by step. The first question you will answer is this a mostly or completely handwritten document? Handwritten documents present several difficulties in processing and will be reviewed separately. If the document is mostly typed, click Mostly Typed and move on to the next question by clicking Next. If the document contains mostly handwriting or you can't read it, click Handwritten, then click the Done button. This document will be flagged for further review and you will be presented with a new document. But what if you don't know which answer is best? Let's check out the examples for this task by clicking on the Need Some Help with This Task link. Here's an example of a handwritten document. Skip documents that look like this by clicking Done. And here's one that's a mix of type and readable handwriting. As long as you can easily read it, you'd click Mostly Typed. Sometimes, even after reviewing the help and tutorial sections, you won't know how to answer a question. In that case, click Done and Talk. This option will end your interaction with the document and allow you to ask a question about this document on our talk boards. In this case, the document I'm reviewing is typed, so I click Mostly Typed and move on to the next question. Next, you'll be asked, does this image contain a reference to a racial covenant? The page you are shown by default at the beginning should contain the racially restrictive language. First, let's look at some examples of racial covenants. Click the Need Some Help with This Task button. Every question has this option. It's a good idea to check these examples if you have any questions about what exactly you should be looking for. Now, look over the page for the racial covenant. In this block of text, we can see, these premises shall never be occupied by any person other than of the white race. That's an example of the racial covenant language we're looking for. So for this document, we click Yes. Not all documents will contain a racial covenant. If you read the full page and don't see any language indicating a covenant, click No. You can then move on to a new document by clicking either Done or Done and Talk. Certain types of documents may contain multiple racial covenants on a page, usually associated with separate deeds. If this is the case, click on the There are multiple covenants on this page button. This will send the document to a different workflow for review, and you can click Done or Done and Talk. If the text is confusing, unclear, or hard to read, click I can't figure this out. Then Next. You'll be prompted to briefly describe your issue, then you can click Done to move on to the next document. Now, since this document has a racial covenant, click Yes, and then Next to move on to the next task. Now you'll be asked to transcribe the racial covenant. Please copy the racially restrictive language exactly as it appears. Write out the entire restrictive clause, including typos and misspellings. The covenant we identified in the last task is located here, so I copy that word for word into the entry field. Once you enter the text, reread your transcription for accuracy, and then press Next to continue. The next task asks you to identify what kind of geographic information is in this document. Click on the Need Some Help with This Task link for detailed descriptions with examples. For this task, choose the option that best matches the document you're looking at. Keep in mind that the geographic information may be on another page. We'll briefly go through the help examples now. The most common geographic information you will see will be some combination of one or more lots or tracts. These two terms are used interchangeably. A single block and a single edition name or plat. These two terms are also used interchangeably. Lots and blocks are always numerical values. Editions and plats usually have text names. Sometimes there is no block information and you will only see a lot or tract number and an edition name. If this is the case, still choose this first option even though the document doesn't list a block. Some deeds will have section and range details after the lot block edition information, highlighted here in blue. Do not include this information in your responses. Use only the lot, block, and edition information. Some documents like this example will feature a series of lots or tracts with multiple blocks and editions or plats. If your document looks like this, choose this option. You'll choose only a lengthy property description when the geographic information does not include a lot-block edition combination, but is instead a detailed paragraph describing the property using fractions, latitude or longitude degrees, north, south, east, west directions, or other kinds of units, as in this example. If the document has any text indicating this is for a cemetery plot or series of graves, please choose the cemetery plot graves option, even if you find any elements of the earlier choices. Edition-wide covenants are usually a separate document type and list the edition name at the top, followed by a long list of restrictions and the lots they pertain to. Petition covenants are rare, occurring when homeowners decide as a group to make their neighborhood a restricted neighborhood. Select this option and click Done and Talk if you think you see one of these. If there is geographic information in this deed that doesn't fall into any of the above categories, or if you don't find any geographic information on any page of this document, select Something Else, No Geographic Information. Let's look again at the document we are transcribing. In this document, we can see a lot, block, and addition name, so choose the first option and click Next. Each of the options we just covered has its own subset of follow-up questions. Depending on what option you select, you will see a different combination of the following questions. We'll work through each of these possible questions now. In the case of our example document, the next task will ask you to transcribe the lot or tract, block, and addition or plat name. We can see that in this document, the lot or tract is 2, the block number is 3, and the addition name is Arthur Wentz's Northern Heights. Make sure to enter only the numeric value of the lot and block, even if they are written out as words. And after you check what you've written for accuracy, click Next to move on. Now you'll be asked to find the name of the person or group selling the property. This is usually at the very beginning of the deed. You might also find it referred to as the grantor, vendor, or party of the first part. If this document doesn't contain information on the seller, please leave the field blank. In this document, though, Carroll Investment Co. is the seller. Type the name in the field, and after checking for accuracy, click Next. After transcribing the seller information, you'll look for information about the buyer. This is usually right after the seller at the beginning of the document. You might also find this referred to as the grantee, vendee, or party of the second part. If this document doesn't contain information on the seller, please leave the field blank. In this document, we see that Patrick M. Cleary and Rose A. Cleary are the buyers. So type the names in the field and click Next. For the last task, you will record the date of the covenant. Look for a date on the document, typically at the start of the deed or in the first paragraph, though sometimes it will be at the end of the document. This document starts with, "This indenture made this 5th day of May, 1927, so I will enter that information in the drop-down menus like so." Once you've filled in the date, you can click Done to finish your first transcription. You will immediately be shown a new document that we think contains a racial covenant. From here, the process starts over with the new document. And that's it. You are now ready to get started. Thank you for your contribution.